Relative humidity 62%. The temperature humidity index stands at 73, and the wind is calm. Marilyn Monroe is dead, apparently from an overdose of sleeping pills. But an investigation is now going on, and no final conclusion has been reached. Here is the statement from Deputy Coroner Cronkite.
On the basis of all the information obtained, it is our opinion that the case is a probable suicide.
Sugar. Yeah. 85.
For 23 years, there have been those who disbelieved the official verdict in the death of Marilyn Monroe. Sergeant Jack Clemens was the first police officer called to Marilyn's home that night.
No, it was not a suicide. Marilyn Monroe was murdered. There's no question about it.
Others contend there was a political cover-up. For hours, they say, news of Marilyn's death was withheld from police. The time was used, they believe, to spirit Marilyn's lover, Robert Kennedy, out of Los Angeles.
To get Bobby out of the whole scene, to get him out of town.
The curtain falls. Brief and simple rites mark the funeral of Marilyn Monroe.
The death of Marilyn Monroe was the start of a mystery. Talk of her relationship with the Kennedys enticed the malign interest of the mafia. A police inquiry was concluded in haste. A friend who tried to find out more was warned off.
There'll be a contract out for you. Is there one now? You better believe it. You better believe it.
The events surrounding Marilyn Monroe's death were completely covered up by the Los Angeles Police Department, the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office, and top officials governing Los Angeles County.
A kiss on the hand may be quite continental, but diamonds are a girl's best friend. A kiss may be grand, but it won't pay the rental on your humble flat, or help you at the automat. Men grow cold as girls grow old, and we all lose our charms in the end. But square cut or pear shape, these rocks don't lose their shape. Diamonds are a girl's best friend.
Now Minnesota's Governor Orville Freeman places in nomination
the great senator from the state of Massachusetts, John F. Kennedy.
July 1960, the Democratic Convention in Los Angeles. You must admit, said Marilyn Monroe, Jack Kennedy is much better than old uglies with no brains or beauty. Years before, Kennedy had been introduced to Marilyn by actor Peter Lawford.
He always wanted to meet the, quote, cheesecake figure, the sex goddess, Marilyn Monroe. It was one of his fantasies. And could Peter arrange for that?
Ladies and gentlemen, your nominee and the next president of the United States, John F. Kennedy.
The convention makes it a Kennedy victory by acclamation on the first ballot.
One of Kennedy's political advisors at that time, a man instrumental in bringing the convention to Los Angeles, was Peter Summers. In the 1960 campaign, he had the crucial job of handling relations with the TV networks. Summers says that he and other staffers already knew about the relationship with Marilyn. They saw it thrive in the heady atmosphere that surrounded Kennedy's nomination.
Democratic presidential nominee is ready for the campaign war.
Kennedy was nominated, and at that moment, not only the ground floor audience, the working group of the political effort, but all of the balconies, which were loaded with stars from the entertainment field, it became electric. It was energy that could have been greater than the atomic bomb in Hiroshima. He was so magical as he came to the podium, and trying to calm them down to even say thank you. Chills were going up and down your spines as you stood there. It was just a moment of magic.
The new frontier of which I speak is not a set of promises. It is a set of challenges. It sums up not what I intend to offer to the American people, but what I intend to ask of them.
That night, Marilyn Monroe was in the Los Angeles Coliseum for the Kennedy acceptance speech. While Kennedy talked of the challenges and perils of the new frontier, advisors like Peter Summers calculated the political perils Marilyn might represent.
Marilyn Monroe was in the audience along with, I couldn't begin to name all the stars 25 years later that were there. A strong friendship was developing at that time between Marilyn Monroe and Jack Kennedy.
Give me your help and your hand and your voice.
Our Marilyn was free at the time, and Jack Kennedy wasn't. The attraction that everyone had for Jack Kennedy, I think Jack Kennedy felt toward Marilyn Monroe, because Marilyn had the same charisma, beautiful person, quiet person, someone that could enjoy and appreciate the friendship that maybe only a Jack Kennedy could really give to her. Some people of staff said, you know, products are sold by star endorsement. Maybe the closeness of this will be of benefit for him being elected. The other side, of course, is you're not going to elect somebody president that is perhaps ignoring his wife or cheating on his family or something else. Yes, there was concern, and Marilyn was spoken to very frankly about it.
No.
The president was spoken to very frankly about it. There was great concern at the time. It could have destroyed him.
Jack Kennedy was just a young senator when he and Marilyn Monroe first walked on the beach at Malibu, unreported by the Hollywood press. Now they were stars in the twin firmaments of show business and politics. Marilyn represented danger. Jack's sister Pat Kennedy had married actor Peter Lawford. In the words of one acquaintance, suntanned, unruffled, with that peculiar impersonal friendliness of the overprivileged. A former cinema usher turned B-movie actor, Lawford was noted more for his affability than his talent. By 1960, on the eve of the Democratic Convention, the Lawfords were installed in a grand beachfront home in Santa Monica.
Pablo, it's say here under weather report. It say a front of warm air is moving in from Jamaica. Moderately high barometric pressure will cover the northeast and the deep south. Small danger of fruit frost. Hot and humid nights can be expected.
Lawford was determined to please the Kennedys who had enveloped him. 625 Oceanfront, full of his showbiz cronies, became the relaxed headquarters for the president's affair with Marilyn Monroe.
People running through in bathing suits and bare feet, surfboards going through the house right out to the water, someone sitting out by the pool reading, someone else taking a walk on the beach. It was a nice lifestyle. And the president and all of us were sitting there in bathing suits, a shirt, an open shirt, and it was a nice time.
We're having a heat wave, a tropical heat wave. The temperature's rising, it isn't surprising, it certainly can.
It was a relationship, a sexual relationship for sure, but much deeper than that, if you know what I'm saying.
T, her anatomy makes the mercury down.
293.
Lawford had unwittingly started a dangerous chain of events. Neither he nor Kennedy had the slightest idea the house was bugged. Microphones were everywhere.
They were placed under carpets. They were placed in the chandeliers and in ceiling fixtures. You know, you would have to look for the logical place to place the equipment. You have to gain entry also by either picking a lock or making some other kind of entry. As far as the wiretap is concerned, that's not something that the Secret Service in that date and time could pick up, because you could wire a telephone 5 miles from a location. It had to be right there.
Otash's men parked themselves on the beach beside Pacific Coast Highway, looking for the strongest signal from microphones hidden inside the house.
The conversation that came across the receiver was music, people talking, and it would fade in and fade out, and I then beginning to recognize the voices, the Bostonian accent and Marilyn Monroe, and I heard the word the president call Marilyn, Marilyn, or Marilyn calling the president Prez.
Danoff now claims he was shocked to discover that the target of the operation was the President of the United States.
The footsteps left the living, which I assume was the living room, and went into the bedroom where there was another transmitter which picked up all the activity in the bedroom, which was cuddly talk and taking off the clothes and the sex act in the bed. You can hear the springs squeaking and so on and so forth.
One of the customers for the tapes, Danoff claims, was baseball star Joe DiMaggio, Marilyn Monroe's former husband, concerned lest Marilyn's rich and powerful friends might somehow hasten her emotional destruction. But the real customer, it seems, was not in the least concerned with Marilyn's well-being. Jimmy Hoffa, the national leader of the Teamsters, hated the Kennedys.
Yes, they came in all talcum powdered and shaved up.
Lured by stories of wild goings-on at the Lawford house, the use of drugs, in the middle of it all, perhaps Marilyn Monroe and the charismatic Kennedy, Hoffa was inevitably fascinated. Both Kennedy brothers had been guests at the house. Hoffa saw potential scandal that could dim the Kennedy name. Hollywood private eye Fred Otash, who organized the bugging, says this of his former client.
You know, you were talking about the mob. Hoffa was the mob. You can't be the head of the Teamsters Union unless you're approved by the mob. It's a whole big black circle.
I want a guy I can look up to and admire. But I don't want him to browbeat me. I want a guy who'll be sweet with me. But I don't want him to baby me either. I just gotta feel that whoever I marry has some real regard for me, aside from all that loving stuff.
Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy and his wife arrive in Tokyo for a Japanese goodwill visit on behalf of President Kennedy's New Frontier program.
The political enemies of the Kennedys, including Jimmy Hoffa, reserved a special distaste for Robert Kennedy as Attorney General, Chief of Law Enforcement. Hoffa heard rumors that the younger Kennedy had himself now become involved with Marilyn Monroe. Deborah Gould, Lawford's former wife, says the stories were true.
Strangely enough, from what Peter said, then Bobby got very infatuated. Then it led into an affair between Marilyn and Bobby.
Kennedy started showing up at Marilyn's apartment in Hollywood, according to her friend Jeannie Carmen.
I went to the door and I opened it up, and there stands Bobby Kennedy, and I go, boy. Marilyn came rushing out of the bathroom all of a sudden, and totally different than I would have expected her, because she had on this really cruddy white robe that she liked to wear, and she jumped into his arms, and they started kissing madly. And then they settled down. We all sat down, and we had another wine together, and she goes, which means, Jeannie, go back to your apartment, which I did.
The Lawford parties at the beach house continued, except that Marilyn now arrived not with the president, but with Robert Kennedy.
I know she was nuts about it because she told me, you know. I mean, she liked that mental part of it. She was fascinated by him. I think she was scared to death of him because he gave this air about himself. You probably do a lot of people that way. I think he was nuts about her. She kind of teased him, but then she knew just how far to go and then just kind of back off, you know. And she was kind of cute with him in a way. But she was nuts about him, yeah.
From long before the Kennedy presidency, Robert Kennedy's preoccupation had been to destroy the power of organized crime in America, the mob.
We were dealing with organized crime and big-time gangsters and hoodlums as we had to deal with them in the days of Al Capone.
Robert Kennedy was chief counsel on the McClellan Committee, which in the late 50s interrogated labor leaders like Jimmy Hoffa and mobsters like Sam Giancana. The Teamsters, as run by Hoffa, Kennedy described as a conspiracy of evil.